Welcome to Reflection Thursday. I left you a question to think about yesterday. Is the Book of Ruth fictional? Are there clues indicating that it could be this? Now, when you read analytically, you keep your eyes and mind open, noting the details of the story before arriving at conclusions. At least that's what you try to do. And depending on the study Bible you use, you understand that the names of the characters, also what their meanings are, has something to do with the role that they have in the story. Now, perhaps one indication that Ruth could be fictional are the names of the characters. Notice the meaning of the names on this screen, and then that's pretty much the role they play. Elimelech, his name means God is my king, and he is from Bethlehem, the Bethlehem area. You wonder if he lost a bit of that when he moved to Moab. Naomi means my lovely. Now their original names sound pretty normal, but notice what Naomi wants to be called once she moves back. Mara, which means bitterness. Then we get to their sons. Mahlon, which means sickly, and Chilion, which means frail. And we note that these two sons die in Moab. So is this a name given after the fact, or did mom and dad kind of see that they were sickly and frail and name them as such? Then we have Orpah, which literally means back of the neck. And it's related to a verb which means one who turns one's back. So if I turn my back to you, what do you see? You see the back of my neck. Interesting, she's the daughter-in-law who initially is going to go with Naomi, but then after pleading from Naomi to return home, she does turn back and we see the back of her neck. And then the name of Ruth literally means friend or companion. Now, biblical names many times meant something, particularly in the Old Testament, and sometimes people were given the names and they lived up to it. For example, Jacob literally means one who grabs at the heel or somebody who tries to trip people up. And that's exactly what Jacob does with Esau until he gets tripped up by his uncle. So maybe this is a hint. Maybe if we think this is indicating fiction, we're reading too much into this. But again, learn to read and think analytically. So that gives us a little indication that maybe there's some fiction going on, perhaps. I've just asked, does the meaning and value of the Book of Ruth change if it's fictional? For me, it does not. Now, I'm not claiming that Ruth is a fictional piece, but I am trying to motivate you to read and think analytically. Certainly, without the Book of Ruth, the genealogy list of chapter 4, 18 through 25, remains as it's repeated in 1 Chronicles chapter 2. And in Matthew's account, he mentions Ruth with Boaz in Matthew chapter 1, but this is the only occurrence of the name Ruth outside the Book of Ruth. If you lean toward the Book of Ruth being fictional, then prepare to respond to the question, what would motivate someone to write a fiction story about this? Another item to consider when you're thinking about the reality of Ruth, Deuteronomy 23, verses 3 through 6 states that no one of Moabite descent can join the assembly of God's people in worship unless they are more than 10 generations removed from their Moabite genes. King David, according to our genealogy in Ruth, is the great-grandson of Ruth. He's just 3 generations removed, and yet he's able to lead the Israelites in worship assemblies in the tabernacle. Now, don't worry, I've learned long ago not to rush trying to tie up loose ends of the biblical text. If God left ends loose to his story, there's reasons for it. I really hope that you're having fun with the Book of Ruth. And more importantly, are learning how to read the biblical text analytically. Next time I'll answer the 5 questions from my point of view, and we can kind of compare notes and conclusions there. So God bless and keep reading. So here are 5 questions I want you to reflect about before our next session, which is on Wednesday. So we almost have 7 days to work on this. Number 1, what triggered Naomi's despair? If you'll start listing this, you'll find that Naomi is a more likable, identifiable character. It also raises questions in regard to number 5, but we'll get to that in a moment. Number 2, what moved Naomi from despair to hope and joy? List these. Put scripture and verse there so you can see the events that occur. Number 3, how did Ruth demonstrate loyalty to Naomi? List those because that's going to become an important building block when we pull out the final message out of Ruth. Number 4, how does Boaz demonstrate loyalty in the book of Ruth? Again, list what he does, how he goes about it, what his attitudes are. And kind of an aside remark, is there any real difference between the loyalty that Boaz shows and the loyalty that Ruth shows? And then number 5, what role does the Lord play in the book of Ruth? And is that role different than how God acts now? Again, we're getting at the meaning and value of Ruth for today. I really hope that you're having fun with the Book of Ruth. And more importantly, are learning how to read the biblical text analytically. Next time I'll answer the 5 questions from my point of view, and we can kind of compare notes and conclusions there. So God bless and keep reading.